Hello. Today we're going to be taking notes on this integer doodle note sheet. And I'm actually starting without it in the book because it's simpler for me to write in it and then transfer it into the book later. So for right now, everybody needs to have a copy of this worksheet in front of them. And we're going to fill in the blanks, and then, like I said, we'll put it into the book where it belongs. So to begin with, we are going to be talking about integers. And integers are basically numbers that are on a number line. Anything that's not a fraction or a decimal. So it could be a positive or negative number. It could be -1 or +1. It could be 0. Any of those things work. And so on your front page it says integer, positive and negative whole numbers, and we're going to fill in with the word 0. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we filled in with 0. And if you look at this example, by the end of this lesson, we should be able to do problems like this. And this might look a little confusing, but it says, a scuba diver swam 25 feet down, 10 feet down, then 5 feet up, then 50 feet down, then 65 feet up, and then 45 feet down. Where did he end up? So you think about that. If you're at the shore and you're swimming down 25 feet and you go down another 10 feet, well, where would you be at? Well, you'd be down at 35 feet below sea level. You'd be at -35. But then if you go up 5 feet, well, now where would you be? Well, if you go up from -35 feet or 35 feet below sea level, you'd be now at 30 feet below sea level. And then you go down another 50 feet, and then up another 65 feet, and then down. So by the end of this lesson, we should be able to know where that scuba diver would be. So think about that as we talk about integers. I want you to think about the idea of sea level. That's a really good way to put this in perspective. And I want you to envision that scuba diver going down below sea level and above sea level. All right, let's talk now about addition. When we add integers. Now there's two types of addition problems when we have integers. The first one is when we have positive number, or I'm sorry, when we have the same sign. That's the first situation that we have. And when you have the same sign, you're going to think about two descents. So that diver is going down, and then he's going down even further. Adding to ascents, or adding to where he's going above, he goes up a little bit, and he goes up a little bit more. So this would be like a positive plus a positive, or a negative plus a negative. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is the idea of the absolute value. We talked about this before. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0, and it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. It's just the distance from 0, how many hops from 0 it takes. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the absolute values. So whatever the distance is from 0, you're going to add it together. And then you're going to make sure that you keep the common sign. So, for example, 5 plus 5, well, this is 5 from 0, and this is 8 from 0. 5 plus 8 is 13. -2 and -3. Well, -2 is 2 from 0. -3 is 3 from 0. So 2 plus 3 is 5. But then I keep the same sign, so I'm going to have -5. Now, what if we have different signs? So if we have different signs, we're going to think that an ascent can partially cancel out or overcome. So when we were talking about the diver above, he went down so far, but then he went up. And so it kind of is that he's going up a little bit, but then he's going back down. So that's the concept. So an ascent can partially cancel out or overcome a descent, or a descent can partially, I'm going to abbreviate, cancel an ascent. So he went down, but he went up a little bit. And these type of problems are like a positive plus a negative, or a negative plus a positive. They're opposite. So in these situations, you're going to subtract the absolute value. So looking at the distance from 0, you're going to subtract the bigger one from the smaller one. And then you're going to use the sign of the number with the higher absolute value. So whichever number had the bigger absolute value, or if it was further from 0, whatever sign that one was, that's the sign you're going to give your answer. So let's look at these examples. 5 plus negative 8. Well, which one is further from 0? Well, negative 8 is. So for that reason, we'll take 8 and we'll subtract 5 and we get 3. Now we're looking at which one has the greater absolute value. Well, we said it was negative 8, so our answer is going to be a negative. Let's look at the next one. Negative 2 plus 3. Well, which one is further from 0? 3. 3 is 3 hops from 0. Negative 2 is 2 hops from 0. So we would do 3 minus 2. Well, 3 minus 2 is 1. And which one has the greater absolute value? The positive. So our answer is going to be positive. All right, now let's go to subtracting. When we subtract, we're looking at a problem. Let's look at this first, this example. It says, think removing a recent descent is actually rising again. Removing a recent ascent is the same as descending again. So it's like, rather than thinking like you're going to be adding more, it's kind of the opposite. And you'll see that when we actually do the problem. So the rule is subtracting to an addition problem, when we're subtracting, we first change it from a subtraction problem to an addition problem. So just change the operation. And so how you do that is you just switch the operation to plus while changing the second sign of the number to keep it equivalent. So first you change it to an addition problem, then you're going to add using the addition rules to the left. So I like to think of this as keep the first number, change the operation, and then change the sign of the second number. Keep, change, change. Okay, so let's look at that as we would do this problem. We're going to rewrite it. So instead of 5 minus negative 8, we're going to have keep the first number, change the operation from a minus to a plus, and then change the second number. From negative 8, it's going to be positive 8. Well, 5 plus 8 is 13. Let's look at the next one. Negative 2, keep the first number, change the operation, and then I have positive 3. I'm going to change it to the opposite. So the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. Negative 2 plus negative 3, they're the same sign, so we would just add them and keep the sign. So it would be negative 5. So we can think of this, another great analogy for understanding integers is money. It's actually the best way if you think of it this way. Think about adding and removing or subtracting credits and debits. For example, removing a debit is a positive movement. So if I were to go to the bank and deposit $20, I now have positive $20 in my account. But let's say I spent $10. Well, I now need to subtract negative 10 from my account. And so I would end up with $10. Well, let's say then I add another 20. I now have $30 in my account. Let's say I then spend $40. Well, I'm now in the negative $10. And so when we think of money, that's a great way for us to think about using integers. Okay, let's go to the back. The next thing we need to think about is multiplying and dividing. So in multiplying and dividing, we multiply or divide normally. You're just going to multiply or divide like you normally would. But there are some differences that we have to think about if the sign, depending on how the signs look. So the first thing is, if both signs match, so both are positive or both are negative, the answer is going to be positive. So if both numbers are negative, it doesn't matter, the answer is still going to be positive. If both answers are positive, or both factors are positive, the answer is still going to be negative. It doesn't matter. It always, as long as both are the same, it will end up positive. However, if they don't have the same sign, so if one is negative and one is positive, then your answer is going to be negative. So if you have a positive 2 times a negative 1, your answer is going to be a negative 2 because you have a positive and negative multiplying together. So let's look at that in some examples. And it doesn't matter whether you're dividing or multiplying, it's the same rule. So negative 4 negative 4 divided by 2, we have a negative and a positive, so our answer is going to be a negative, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 5 times negative 8, they are both negative, so the answer is going to be a positive. 5 times 8 is 40. And now we're left over with some practice problems. I want you to read these problems on your own, and I want you to see what you can do with them. So here's an example of a word problem. Alicia withdrew $45 from her bank account. Later that day, she deposited $80. Then wrote a check for $250. Last, she spent another $55 from an account while shopping with her direct debit card. What was her total gain or loss in funds from the account that day? Write an integer expression, then simplify. Okay, so Alicia withdrew $45. She took out $45 from her account. Then, and I like to put parentheses around my negatives. The bell might ring just a moment, and I apologize for that in this video. Sorry about that. Okay, so she has a negative $45 in her account. Later that day, she deposited $80. So she put $80 then into the account. Then she wrote a check for $250. So she then subtracted $250 out of her account. Then last she spent another $55. So then she has another $55 that she spent. So it seems to me that she's spending a lot more money than she's putting in her account, but let's double check. So $45 is negative, and we're going to add a positive 80 to it, okay? So remembering our rules, we're going to take the one that has the greater absolute value, which is 80, and we're going to subtract the one that has the lesser, which is 45. 80 minus 45 is 35. So then I need to look at what number has the greater absolute value. It's the positive, so I have a positive $35. Now I'm going to add $250, or a negative $250. So I take the one that has a greater absolute value, which is negative $250, and I'm going to subtract the 35. Well, $250 minus 35 is going to be 215. And because my negative is greater absolute value, I'm going to have a negative. She now has negative 215 in her account. Now I've got a negative and a negative, so I can add those together. 215 plus 55 is going to be 270. However, I have a negative and negative, so my answer is going to be also a negative. So she has a negative $270 in her account. Her bank will be coming after her. She will be in trouble because she has spent too much money. All right, so now you have these other problems. I want you to use the rules, and I want you to practice them on your own, making sure that you try your best and use all the rules that are provided. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic day. Go back and watch this video if you need to.